Um, well, this is a kind of an exciting program to have because both of these guys wanted to do this and separately came up with the idea. So we thought we'd put it together. We've got on the far side over here George Ward, who I believe, George, are you still considered the official troubadour of New York State's inland waterways?
Well, that was a con job that my wife and a friend put together years ago. He was on a committee looking after the Greenway before it became a national heritage site. And he just decided that he would get the board to appoint me as the canal balladeer. As my father would have said, this and a token will get you on the subway.
Wow, okay. Well, anyway, George is a canal guy, and he's got a lot of stuff to talk about. This other guy here, Steve Wunder, is Captain Steve Wunder. Was on the canal how many years?
40 total. Stayed for 32. I'm still on the canal, actually.
You still
I'm in it sometimes.
Steve lives right on the edge of the canal.
He lives on the edge, yes.
Definitely. And you were the captain of the Urger, too.
Captain of the Urger, captain of the Seneca, captain of the Cleveland, Waterford, a few others. The good thing was, when you're running someone else's boat, someone else fixes them. That's my claim to fame.
Kind of a money pit, aren't they?
I wouldn't know. I didn't spend a dime. Got paid instead.
And the movie that we have for a donation, both of these guys are in various parts of that. It has the main movie, which Steve is really the star of. And then there are 9 additional short movies, and George is at least in one of them or 2.
Yeah. Singing something and clinging to the back of a pontoon boat, as I recall well.
Yes, that's right. So I think the way we'll do this is this will just be one program with no intermission. And we'll just get these guys started talking. And I'm going to stay out of the way as much as I can.
That's a good thing.
It is a good thing. So who wants to start off?
This is Dan Ward, by the way.
Yeah.
Dr. Dan Ward. Good friend of the canal, promotes it whenever he can.
Another canal guy.
Just another canal guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't get better than that, does it?
Not really. All right, we'll start off with a shorter tale on the song. Because my idea of this was very simple. I'm aging out. I've sung up and down the canal for years. I've also done a lot of other stuff, but that became something that I never expected, really. I grew up on salt water. I'm a downstater, I hate to admit it, but I grew up on Long Island. So I fished for flounder and swam in salt water. I never swam in fresh water until I was a camp counselor in Vermont at the age of 20. I wasn't sure whether you sank when you swam in fresh water or what. But when I came up to Union College in Schenectady, I was bereft of boats. And then I realized that there were boats going up and down the Mohawk River in this thing called the Barge Canal. So various stories about that. But I got drawn into it not because I thought mules were romantic or anything, but just because it was where I could connect with a little piece of myself. Years later, and this is where this song comes from. And at the age I am, I kind of have to apologize. My voice comes and goes, so we'll see how it goes this afternoon. At one time, I sang summers on a tour boat called the Nightingale that was owned by Captain Michelle Brown, and her working captain was a fellow named Bruce Loring. And they would work their tails off. They would come up and they would work for a week or 2 weeks from the Schenectady Yacht Club in Rexford, which is right down the hill from my house. And they do 3 cruises a day. They do school kids in the morning, summer programs. They do whatever in the afternoon, maybe more school kids, maybe other people. And then they do dinner cruises. And it worked for years and years and years, but on the dinner cruises and some of the other things, they would have me come on. We wired a boat, sort of, from Radio Shack, cheap, and I would sing Canal songs that I knew, I would sing songs that I knew. Coming back, we'd sail from the Schenectady Yacht Club west along Mohawk River past Schenectady and up through Lock 8, which was the first of the folding up dams. We'd go through the lock and go over the place and turn around and come back. One time, we were going up through the lock, and you know, the lock is a big echo chamber. It's like singing in the bathroom. So I pulled out an Irish penny whistle and I was playing this too. And we pull up to the top, and here's this beautiful campsite. I mean, nothing fancy, but everything is in its place. Military precision, no joke. And just a couple looking at us and waving. We go, and we turn around, we come back. And the guy is in full kilt, spar, and dagger, the whole thing, playing the bagpipes. That's the canal, right? You never know what's going to happen. So I thought, it's wonderful to sing these songs about rolling home to old New England when we're coming back to the dock. Suppose we could sing something like, roll me down, good river, rolling down the shining valley, where the hearth fires of the longhouse flicker easy on the land, where the eerie of the palisades and cross the rippling water, rolling down to Rexford, coming home. All of which is chorus. Roll me down, good river, rolling down the shining valley, where the hearth fires of the long house flicker easy on the land, where the eerie hug the palisades, the huge cliff that's just down the Rexford, and cross the rippling water on the Yakima. Rolling down to Rexford, coming home. If you want to, you can. You don't have to. It's not a winter. Oh, fare you well to White Lake Erie and the green Niagara River. Lonely Bracewells of Ontario, St. Lawrence to the sea. I have found the gentler passage east, away for Tonawanda. Stern waters of the peaceful border roll me down the river, rolling down the shining valley, where the hearth fires of the longhouse flicker easy on the land, where the eerie of the palisades and cross the rippling water, rolling down to Rexford, coming home. Still they whisper to me, easy, rolling east along the levels, Rockport, Fairport, Adams Basin, Montezuma, and the rest, where politicos and visionaries, hungry men with shovels, turn the wilderness to coastline bending west. Rolling me down the river, rolling down the shining valley, where the hearth fires of the longhouse flicker easy on the land, where the eerie hug the palisades and cross the rippling water, rolling down to Rexford, coming home. I'm making passage on the dreams of folk forgotten by the sweat of men uprooted, bringing promise from the land. Over bones of ancient ways cut down, forgotten, the towpath. Ease to memory, ease to mourning, coming home. Roll me down, good river, rolling down, shining valley, where the hearth fires of the longhouse flicker easy on the land, where the eerie of the palisades and across the liquid water, rolling down to Rexford, coming home. I am bound gentle passage east, away on the water, where the heart fires of the longhouse flicker easy on the land, over bones of ancient ways cut down, forgotten like the towpath. East to memory, east to morning, coming home. Rolling down, good river, rolling down the shining valley, where the heart fires of the longhouse flicker easy on the land, where the eerie of the palisades and across the liquid water, rolling down to Rexford, coming home. Rolling down to Rexford, coming home.
That was great, George. I could tell everybody in the audience was humming all the words. They had it down good, except for one or two. I'm not going to point them out. No, don't.
We're not here to be critical.
That's right. Critics. We have no critics here, do we? You didn't say one word about mosquitoes, but you did mention Montezuma. When you were playing your guitar on the back of the tugboats, we've crossed paths over the years many times, probably over 40 years maybe.
Yeah.
And I think I first met George on the Hudson. I think you were playing with Pete Seeger, or you were at the same place.
Could have been, yeah, could have been raising money for the Hudson River Sloop, if you want to go back.
That's right, the Clearwater. Yeah, we were tied up along the Clearwater with the Tug Urger.
Yep.
And we were a bunch of derelicts that were sent to tour the state and promote the canal system. And we were designated as derelicts. And we were requested to do this by John Germano, the director of waterways. He handpicked a crew, and I happened to be in all the wrong places at the right time prior to this appointment. So on the Urger was an educational tugboat, for those of you that didn't know. It's built in 1901. It's 125 years old today, and it's in, well, my math's pretty good. And it's tied up, it's on the wall in Lysander now. The last time it ran was 2017. And I was the last captain on it. And I was, I think, the first captain for the state after it wasn't privatized any longer by Schuyler Meyer. So we toured the state and we showed up at festivals, and my orders were to have a good time. And I only had to hear that once. I was the engineer, so I ran the engines and everything, and I answered bells, it being a bell boat. We went up and down the Hudson. We went to the Tonawondas. We went to Ithaca, and I have a story about every town across the state, just about. Some good, some bad. Some I think are legally off the books, so I can actually tell you the truth. And if it's not the truth, it's morphed into the truth. Sort of like we're doing as a country right now, and everything's morphing into the truth, which is all right. We'll go with that. And so anyway, the urchin was a gift, and I was on the canal system at the right time. When I was hired, I was the last ship's cook hired by New York State. I was out of the Navy as a cook, and I was hired for the Navy, or for the canals, as a ship's cook. It was grade 4, and they did away with the title shortly after I had it. And I never actually got to exercise my right as a cook on the boat under that title because the old guy was a World War II veteran, and he took an immediate hatred towards me. And all I wanted to do was document this great event of being on the canal all of a sudden and going, wow, look at that. Antique. Look at the size of the brass stuff. I can't believe it. This stuff's 100 years old. I can't believe you're still using this stuff. I was totally amazed because I was a plank owner on a Navy ship, so everything was brand new. And I really understood what new was. And then I come to the canal system, and I'm running a dog boat. We'll avoid most of that, but anyway, George and I crossed paths a lot, and we had a musician. I thought I silenced my phone. I'm not too tech savvy. Son, you can do something like that. Flush it. Please. Flush it. So that brings me up to my past, and how I started on the canal system was as a ship's cook. And I started on the tug Syracuse with Dan Geist. He was the captain. He was an excitable boy. He was a knowledgeable man, very knowledgeable. And we hit it off, and we broke a lot of rules along the way. And we started out going to all these festivals because we were the boat that had the shower. We were the only tug that had a shower. And we didn't have radios back then. You had to blow the whistle 3 times for the locks. So when we first got the radios, we were in Syracuse Terminal. And they sent us out on Onondaga Lake with the radio to see how far they can hear you. And it was a state radio, and they said they can hear you in the state office building. And the dredge was tied up there, hydraulic dredge number 5, which is all already cut up and gone now. And there was a guy on the boat, on the dredge, that spoke with what we called, kind of cruelly, a hair lip is what they called him. And his name was Charlie, and he was a great guy. He was the engineer. And the guy in the shop, Bob Brown, he's on the radio, and he says, "Can you guys hear us?" We go, "Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear, Bob," the captain says. He goes, "What's your location?" He says, "We're on Onondaga Lake, right across from High's hot dog stand." All of a sudden you hear, "Get me a hot dog and don't forget the damn mustard." What the hell was that? Then the captain, well, Bob Brown, he goes right over to the hydraulic dredge and says, "I want to talk to Charlie." So Charlie comes out of the dredge, walks over to the wall, and goes, "What do you want, Bob?" Bob says, "Stay off the radio." Charlie says, "How do you know me?" That's the story. And that's what happened. A lot of times on the canal, there was a character trying to beat another character, and they tried to make you do it the right way, but we did it the fun way, and nobody ever got hurt. But a lot of the World War II guys that I learned from, they didn't play around. I wanted to document things and take a picture, and they say, "You're on the books. You can't run around with a camera around your neck taking pictures of me running the lathe and this and that." So, but back then it was still pretty loose on the canal. So along with that, George, you got another song? Yeah. You got something with mosquitoes in it?
Well, I do, but I'm going to save that for a little later.
Okay.
Just because we're on the subject of the urchin. And this whole thing really owes itself to Tom Pringle. Because years ago, Tommy looked at the bollard post and foredeck of the Urger and found the name of the company, the Johnston Brothers, in Ferryville, Michigan, who had built the Urger. And from that kernel of information, he went and found a whole lot of the story. The Urger was built for as a fish tub, fishing for whitefish on Lake Michigan. That she had at one time carried a lifeboat and crew, so that if some other boat got in trouble, there would be a lifeboat that they could launch to rescue. And that, in fact, a big tug called Latham did lose all their rudder control. And Brindle, of course, was right, but it was a good thing to think of. In those days, no radio. If you wanted help to find you, you better hope the engineer could keep some steam in that boiler, because all you had to holler for help was the whistle. And so there was that. Urger got caught in pack ice herself and was rescued by a ferry boat. Eventually, of course, went east and became an Urger. She was named for the Verdine family who had her built to fish for whitefish. Named her after the fellow I think was their favorite buyer and dealer, Henry Dornbos. Saginaw, Michigan, 1901. Whitefish were running, there was work to be done. They named her Henry Dornbos when she slid from the waves to fish the ice-bound Michigan bays. She's got a bone in her teeth, she's blowing smoke rings again. She's rolling just a little along the western wind. I'm walking down the loch like Grandpa did with his best gal to see the Urger come rolling down the Canal. Open up the wheelhouse, let me sit there and breathe, thinking about the times this old tugboat has seen. The diesel's resting quiet, did a brass whistle scream? Is she burning coal and running on steam? She's got a bone in her teeth, she's blowing smoke rings again. She's rolling just a little on the western wind, walking down the loch like Grandpa did with his best gal to see the Urger come rolling down the hill. Tell me of her skippers then, the brothers were dying, sons of Dutch seamen of an earlier time. Johnston Brothers laid her keel and built her to be stout as craft that fought the North Sea. She's got a bone in her teeth, she's blowing smoke rings again. She's rolling just a little on the western wind, walking down the loch like Grandpa did with his best gal to see the Urger come rolling down the Canal. Seas above the wheelhouse, Lake Michigan store. Big Latham lost her rudder, bound to wreck on the shore. Stoker, keep your boiler fire, her whistle must cry, to bring the Dornbos and her lifeboat close by. She's got a bone in her teeth, she's blowing smoke rings again. She's rolling just a little on the western wind. I'm walking down the loch like Grandpa did with his best gal to see the Urger come rolling down the Canal. Farewell, North to the fishing fleet, 1992. Northward to the Mackinac and eastward she steamed. What forgotten wheelhouse poet gave her to bear the name she earned for so many years? She's got a bone in her teeth, she's blowing smoke rings again. She's blowing just a little western wind. I'm walking down the lock like Grandpa did with his best gal to see the urchin come rolling down the Erie Canal. Well, a bell and a jingle to get underway. She never looked back, and she's not looking today. Mom talked to the Erie Rouses, point to Gravesend. We're watching for the urger again. She's got a bone in her teeth, she's blowing smoke rings again. She's rolling just a little on the western wind, walking down the lock like Grandpa did with his best gal to see the urger come rolling down the Erie Canal.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very well done. It describes the Urger's trip coming here.
Yeah.
As a new life, as an educational boat, but it worked on a canal from 1921 till 1981 or 2. And then it became an educational voyage boat under the direction of Tom Prindle, who we called Blackbeard at the time. And then he was in charge. And we did everything to cover up for the Urger. We had a thing called Live Steam Voices.
Oh my God.
Where we took the old dipper dredge, steam dredge, dipper dredge number 3, all across the state, from New York to Buffalo, stopped in towns, built up steam, blew off the whistles, sometimes 4 in the morning. And we thought it was okay because we could hear a train nearby. And the thing was, the train kept going, we sat still. So usually there was a constable. They call them cops. The cop would come down and say, "You guys done for the night?" And then the next morning they would come along to make sure that we moved on to the next town, be it Tonawanda or wherever. But the live steam voices, we had 15 or so steam whistles on top of the dipper dredge. And we had an entourage of boats, again sanctioned by John Germano, to promote the canal system. And as George says, the Urger had a bone in its teeth. The Urger came along just as the oldest ambassador, and she broke down in Sylvan Beach. And the good canalers and the good tugs covered for it the whole way through. The Urger never ran again, but it tied along something, and we made it look like it was running for the rest of the trip. So the crew was able to complete the voyage to the Tonawandas just for bragging rights to say, we could see the mist of the falls. Are we going to turn the dipper dredge around in the river? And it was quite a rude, abrupt F no. But anyway, we covered for each other back then, and the Urger completed the trip, and we repaired it on the way back, and nobody was wiser. And this is the first time it's been publicly announced. and so that's the way we did things back then. But we set up this whistle tour, and we'd have to build up the steam on the dredge, because the dredge tied up. It was no longer a dipper dredge as a digging machine from 1985. Its last dig was in Lyons. And it dug a slip for the dug scows to go in. and dump mud so a hydraulic dredge could go in later and clear it out. So if the Meridian number 8 hauling asphalt to Lyons hit in Mays Point, for instance, they would call up right away and say, hey, we had a strike. It was on a level between Mays Point and Clyde. We'd pack up the dipper dredge and race there. It took a whole day to set it up and a whole day to tear it down. And it needed a minimum of 6 people to run. And it would burn up to 450 gallons a day of fuel. But it would fill 5 dump scows in one day. The best they can do today that I know of is maybe 2. But cost effective, her time was gone, you know. But I worked alongside that. I tended it with a tug for years and years. And some people had mixed emotions about it, having a new life as a platform for steam whistles. It's insulting to this old girl, and I won't go along with it. And a lot of guys stepped off the boat and said, I won't do it. And so anyway, we got press all across the state. And going through York was live Steve voices. My mom and dad came down to the boat, and my mother said, here. She hands me a bag, and it was full of submarine sandwiches from Wegmans. And 2 quarts of beer on the bottom of it wrapped in a dish towel. It was okay then. You know, you knew when to do it and when not to do it was the key. You know, but that's the way things were. And it's really nice to hear George talk about that. But the dipper dredge, it was kind of an emotional boat to me. And I got a poem I wrote. And I spent a lot of time on the boat at night. And a lot of times you were alone, a lot of times you were with somebody else. So I found a lot of comfort instead of going to the bar every other night, once in a while. Well, anyway, I wrote a poem one night when I didn't go to the bar. And I'd like to share it with you. I think I can get through the whole thing. It's kind of long, but I'll talk fast. And if I'm talking too slow, I want somebody to speak up and say, hey, we're on borrowed time here. Okay, it's called The Night Before Digging. It was the night before digging, and the lads on the river were ashore in the riverside taxing their livers. A late night reverie and early to rise, telling tall stories, or should I say lies. At the dawn of the morning, the dredge captain shouted, but the lads paid no heed to the captain who pouted. Get out of those bunks, you louses, you skunks, you lazies and crazies, you damnable drunks. There's mud in the channel that has to be cleared. Forget about barrooms and women and beer. There be rocks in the river, the shallows are wide. Get your coffee and breakfast, then haul it topside. On levers is Ernie, his bucket to guide, with 40 yards of spoil riding inside. The crane man is Carney, we all call him Don. He lets go of the load from the boom he rides on. There is Dale who watches the boiler with care, getting up steam with oil and air. Billy's the guy with the second name Bob, who oils the engines that shiver and throb. And Kenneth our Beagle, the ghost of the dipper, his hammers are still singing the song of the chipper. The scows are now empty, the boiler is down, nothing but memories, no whistles, no sound. The waters are rising, the current is slow, the power of steam has nowhere to grow. Dipper Dredge 3, I must say so sincere, was the best bloody digger I've ever been near. That's what boredom will do. You're better off in the bottom. What do you got, George? Something I had no intention of doing. It's always the best. Off script. It's always the best. I'll tell you, you're right, Dan, off script. This is John Hartford. Where does an old-time riverman go after he's passed away?
Does his soul still keep a watch on the deep, the rest of the river's days? Does it then come back as the channel cat, or the wasps that glide on the weed, or the birds that fly through the summer skies, the fish swimming under the keel? Where does an old-time pilot go after he stood his last watch? Does he fall by the ear of the one who steers, saying, hold on that notch? There's a gentle sneeze on the summer breeze, saying, son, I'm going to bed. And they light their pipes and go off in the night. Or was it fireflies instead? Where does an old-time engineer go after he's cooled her down? Gone up the hill to never come back from the quiet side of town. Does your soul live on in the engine song while the striker checks the gears? Is he still afloat on an old steamboat after he's gone from here? Is he still afloat in an old steamboat after he's gone from here? That really nothing to do with what I was planning to do.
Yeah, that's the way it's gotta be. I love it. That kind of made me think of something else too. It's like when you're done with one thing, it's like going from one title to another. When I was with the Canals, they were eliminating titles. It was kind of the Doja of the day. I got that one in, didn't I? Good for you. Yeah. Well, anyway, it was the Doja of the day. Like I said, I was hired as a ship's cook, and then I was a rigger, then I was an oiler, then I was a marine helper, then I was a winter maintenance, then I was back to regular maintenance, then I was on the gang, then I was off the gang, then I was on the boat, then I was on the different drives, then I was on the tug, and I went wherever I was told to go. And sometimes I was painting buoys in the shop, and other times I was sitting in a truck waiting for somebody to come out of the 7-Eleven. And you never knew where you were going to be, what you were going to do, and it just moved along so quick that I learned on the canal system that you really have to learn to reinvent yourself. So when you go from title to title, the captain's a no good SOB until you become one. And then it's different. Oh no, never was I an SOB. Never. But when I retired from the canals, I still worked on the canal. I worked with Mark Callion on Little Joe, and his work was totally different because he had to earn money. So I had to work like I was earning money. It was totally different, you know. And I worked with Dan Wiles on the Amita, which was a total gift. I retired, and I couldn't believe that Dan would have me as a crew member.
I don't believe it
And he's still scratching it up. Really? Really? So anyway, Dan, I reinvented myself and went on a tour boat. And meanwhile, I'm going by the guys I used to work with, and they're giving me the finger. Hey, Flash! You know, where's the camera, Flash? What are you doing on a tour boat? you know. But I think one of the first times I was on the tour boat with Dan, I saw a kid with an Ed Roth Big Daddy coat, and the Syracuse Nationals were on, and they decided to kill time, and they came on the Amida, and they did the tour with us, and I asked the guy, he says, man, that shirt, Big Daddy was my hero when I was a kid. I mean, he had the Beatnik Bandit, the Hot Wheel cars, he designed the Rat Fink, designed all these things, and here I am on a boat with a guy that's got the shirt. And I said, where'd you get that shirt, man? I really like it. I mean, I'm just an old kid too, is what I was trying to tell him. Come to find out, he was Ed Roth's son. And I'm freaking out. Dan, that's Ed Roth's son. You gotta get out there and tell him about the canal. I said, what? Yeah, but that's Ed Roth's son. You don't get it. That's Big Daddy's son. You gotta get out there and tell him about the canal. So I get out there. What do you want me to tell him? He goes, I don't care what you tell him, as long as I don't have to go out there. So anyway, working on the Amida was a gift, and it was a beautiful, beautiful time. And then unfortunately they sold the Amida, which is fortunate because time to reinvent yourself, wasn't it, Dan? So hey, that was time for another poem, George. Oh, I got time for a quick poem before you sing. Oh yeah, yeah. This is a poem I wrote about the Amida, and the lift bridge wouldn't go up. We were stuck. Where was it?
We were the first boat of the season, and there were still cobwebs.
Cobwebs. So we all had cobwebs. So anyway, this was not as long as the last one, but we were all asked to write about our trip of the Amida going to Chicago, the last trip, which we delivered it without incident. So instead of writing about the trip, I decided to write a poem, and it's called One Last Time. Hey Cap, please blow a whistle one more time. I've known her voice so long and well, carving a course on the Erie Canal. Hey Cap, throw a wake, that would be swell. One more time on the Erie Canal. Damn the bridge that won't go up, Cap. One more time. Tend the lines the way we do, kissing the wall one more time. We are up, we are down, lock gate sweep open just for you. In and out with a wave, one more time. Here she comes gliding towards the dock, one more time. Coming and going for so many years, makes me so happy I burst into tears. One last time. Goodbye, Amida too, but she's doing well where she is. So that Amida too actually reinvented herself too. So George can't reinvent himself. He is what he is. He's a singer, and he's as good as he comes. So we're going to give George another chance. Well, I guess we are. When are we going to put that? Oh, you want to give us a green tape?
Are they recording?
Well, first of all, the board.
Explain what it is.
That's what I'm going to do. My reader. Are you haunted? He's spooky. Okay. The song you're about to hear was another one that was written on the Urger at Night by the previous Derek crew. The crew consisted of Don Carney, George Clark, and myself. And I started to write a poem, and it turned into a song. And it's called The Brass is Turning Green. And there's two versions of it. One of them we can't repeat, especially in a former church. But the one that you're going to hear hopefully will play good. And this was recorded in 1993. And it was the three of us singing live to fourth graders. There were 80 fourth graders in front of us. And we had microphones like we do now. And we only were accompanied by one person, which was Christopher Lair. And he had a bouzouki. I think bouzouki. Could have been a bouzouki. Yeah, I think that's what it is. But the significance of the song is they started too quick and we weren't ready to sing it. So
Chris Layer plays on his bouzouki. He goes, and we were supposed to start singing, but we didn't. And so he did it again. And we're looking at each other, and none of us started singing. So they did that like 3 or 4 times, and finally we said, okay, when we go, ooh, that's when we'll start singing. So he goes, and then he goes, we've been tugging on the ERIE, 92 years of history. And this is the way it was recorded. Not that those.
We've been talking on the ERIE, 92 years of history, swimming to stay clean, while the grass is turning green, and cats are ready to go, all the way to Buffalo. Lockdown time, people hit town, you're in the town's really gonna get down, swimming to stay clean. While the grass is turning green, and the cats are ready to go, all the way to Buffalo. Let's talk history where you come from before years when get it done, swimming to stay clean. But the grass is turning green, and the cats are ready to go, all the way to Buffalo. 92 years of history, swimming to stay green, but the grass is turning green, and the cats are ready to go, all the way to Buffalo.
And that's that.
Well, it's a great song. When did you sing the other version?
Oh, the other version we sang at night amongst ourselves, and it evolved. It turned into Camp said ready to go, and the crew said, no, we're not going. And the brass was worse than green. It was in the latrine, you know, and you can use your imagination. You make up your own words. You can hum all the words.
George, what do you got?
Well, total change of direction here. That's good. From yeah, we'll try it. Or maybe we won't. Tis the bark of the mountain, the boat of the sea. She comes like a vision, all cheering and burning. From the lake she emerges, she hails the blue deep, and looks on the reaches of glory and light. Arthur Cohen, who was here earlier this afternoon, sent me that many, many years ago. He sent me what turned out to be a republication in a Burlington, Vermont newspaper in the 1860s of a poem that was originally written in 1823 to celebrate the opening of the Champlain Canal, which, in my humble opinion, never gets enough respect. In a lot of ways. If you're a historian and you want to think about it, the Champlain Valley naturally looks north. And the Allen brothers, Ethan Allen, or Ticonderoga fame, Ticonderoga pencils and all that, later in the American Revolution wondered if maybe they shouldn't turn to the British, because that was how they could export stuff. George Washington, when he came through after the war, took a tour around the colonies, realized that somehow Champlain had to be connected to the rest of the colonies. And that was completed in 1823, 2 years before the year of the Hudson Champlain Canal. And then, of course, you get all of Art and Company's wonderful discoveries of sailing canal barges. You guys have one of those?
Yeah, don't you? Doesn't everybody have one?
'Tis the bark of the mountain, the boat of the sea. She comes like a vision, all cheering and bright. From the lake she emerges, she hails the blue green, and looks of the regions of glory and light. Very florid early 19th century poem. How dear to the free man the presage she bears, how dear to his bosom the prospect she brings. She shines like a star through the vista of years, while the minstrel of time thus enchantingly sings. Lo, the pine of the mountain, the oak of the hill, shall brave the blue blast of the boundless abyss. Thy garners, Vermont, Europe's riches will fill, and with waves of the lake the Atlantic shall kiss. With gratitude then shall her offspring revere the science that taught them the harvest to reap, that made to the ocean the landsman to steer. His bark of the mountain, his boat of the sea. Lo, the pine of the mountain, the oak of the hill, she brave the rude blast of the boundless abyss. Thy garners, Vermont, Europe's coffers shall fill. Imagine 1823, and the wave of the lake, the Atlantic shall kiss. Wow, you got a heritage to deal with people. You really do. That's amazing.
Did that come with the music? Or did you?
No, I made it.
You did the music to the words?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, Art gets credit for finding words. There's other he does.
It always takes more than one, doesn't it? A lot of times.
That is a truth.
Yeah, it always takes more than one.
It's a big truth about the canal.
Absolutely. The canal worker right here. The locks.
That's right.
Thanks to all the canal workers, that's what I got to say. And a lot of the good things seemed terrible at the time. The lock people and the tug people, they would have these animated wars, you know. What's wrong with your lock? I've been here 20 minutes. I got one coming from up above, kid. I call first. I just painted. Get a fender out.
Oh, yeah, it's inspection time. Yeah.
Yep, and lines, yep. Put the lines behind the post, so you couldn't throw the lines on the post. They did that.
You got to pay on my lines.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, who thought of that? Somebody that never threw a line. But it was so entertaining. The boat that I worked on, Dan Geist, was abrasive, is a polite way of putting it. He'd light right into the guys at the lock, and the lock guy would say, why don't you run the boat instead of your mouth? You know, and then they'd be back and forth, back and forth. And then in the Christmas party, they're playing cards at the table, talking about the good old days. But when they were working, boy, they chewed each other up. And it was really fun to just sit back and watch it. And I was very fortunate because one thing I want you all to know is that the canal was a commercial waterway
And I caught the tail end of it. I caught the tail end of the steam. I caught the tail end of, I'm so grateful for that. To be able to learn from the guys that went from World War II right to the canal. I mean, we had every title you could think of. There was a blacksmith in lines, all the ships had cooks. Each boat still foraged for food. I was 3 days down to Syracuse, and we had laundry service, and we had to count all of our towels and linen and everything, and I stayed right on the boat. Room and board was included, so the guy I was with, his name was Walt, but they called him Mike. Nothing was real. Kind of like one of them Beatles songs, you know, nothing is real. My name's Ralph, but they call me Joe. You know? But anyway, Mike says to me, he goes, grab a pillowcase and follow me. And we're at Mays Point. So we took off towards East Road out in the field, and we're filling pillowcases with potatoes. Because if we cook potatoes, we still get grub check. The grub check was like $1.60 a day, and you had to sign for it if you had a meal on board the boat. So the more stuff you got free, when you were following the boat in your car to give the guys a ride back at the end of the day, you were scrounging. In between Baldwinsville and Lyons, you'd wind up in Sodas. There's no canal in Sodas that I know, but there's apples. So you go out there and you try to get the apples that are bad, and then the cook could make the apples cheaper. You could make potatoes cheaper. But back at Mays Point, we filled our pillowcases full of potatoes. And they weren't the best. They were laying on the ground. Some were green, some were bad, some were whatever. But who cares? We had linen service. So we got the potatoes back to the boat, and we ate potatoes. And that's kind of the way it was. But as a commercial waterway, it morphed into we had to be friendly to the people on the boats instead of get the hell out of the way. We're bigger than you. We can't do that anymore. All the lot guys are going, we got enough railings here, we got enough painting to do, now we got to paint railings. And what are these big hoops coming out at the top of the ladder? Oh, that's so if somebody falls in, they can get out. Well, it's been on right for 70 years. Why are they changing it now? So anyway, my claim to fame was to work for Canals to see and witness the transition from a commercial waterway to a recreational waterway and how entertaining it was. And everybody that came along changed it a little bit more. But you still see remnants of the canal, and it's still working. So it's kind of like our government, it survived just about everything. So we survived worse. The canal has. It's had washouts, it's had breakdowns, it had locks. Baldwinsville, they had to open both gates, and they said it'll never run again because the gate broke, and you know, people are going, both lock gates are closed, they're not letting any water through. And they don't understand the locks, but anyway, the canal's still going very strong. They have all new equipment now. The boats that I used to work on are all either sunk off of Fire Island, and they're all just memories, and they're good memories. And a lot of the people that I work with are no longer with us either. One recent passing, and every time you pick up the paper, you lose another canaler. And so I'm very fortunate that I don't have any witnesses to tell whether I'm telling the truth or not. So I'll leave that up to you guys to figure that out. You can kind of sort through what you think is right and what you think is wrong. And on that note, George better have a song. All right. Do we have? What?
You got a good song?
I've been trying to make a choice here because I figured that these guys are reaching their sell-by date. And
You got to sing along? Make them all sing.
well,
I got another story if you want me to
I'm
tell the
gonna
story.
do what I'm gonna do, and it might be right, it might be wrong. Have anybody here ever read Richard Garrity's book, Canal Boating? Sure, yeah. That was part of the inspiration for this, because I've thought a lot. The reason I'm drifting into this stuff, which is not the most cheerful thing, but not the least either, is all that Steve has been talking about. Yeah, we're going through all these generations of change, and the canal is changing, and as it changes, it's reflecting what's happening to us. And anyway, it started with the Garrity and ended with towpath to heel path was working folks' waters, run dark in hard times, shining and good. For we built them, we worked them, they brought us our living, till there's drops of canal waters run with our blood. That's in 3/4, and it is a chorus if you want to try to memorize all that. I'll sing it for you. The verse is in 4, don't get confused. Towpath to heel path was working folks' waters, from dark and hard times, shining and good. For we built them, we worked them, they brought us our living. Till there's drops of canal waters run without blood. There were pirates in the fields along the old canal. There were dragons on the railway, and you know. But a boy won't read the future with adventure all around, and with a drop of eerie water in his blood. When your dad's an eerie captain, you're the prince of all the sea. Though you must bargain with each penny that you spend. And when from New York town to Buffalo you sail the Grand Canal, there's no schoolmate's tale can tie you in the end. Towpath to heel path was working folks' waters, run dark in hard times, shining in good. For we built them, we worked them, they brought us our living. Till there's drops of canal waters run without blood. When you earned your keep as driver, all the world was sweat and toil. 6-hour shifts, night and day, for days on end. And you dreamed of being steersman, captain, owner, and the man, while the life was changing everywhere you turned. Until you sold the boats and harness, and you paid for tows by sea. Then you sold the boats for nothing after all. You had to leave them where they rested when they drained the old canal. They were your fortune traded home. They were gone. Towpath to heel path was working folks' waters, run dark in hard times, shining and good. For we built them, we worked them, they brought us our living. Till there's drops of canal waters run without blood. Now like an immigrant, the shore beside the new canal, you worked at any trade that paid your hands. the tonnage yearly rising, and you're back to see you through. You went from passing hold to licensed engineer. For the tugs that work the barge canal, the Hudson and the lakes, you serve your pride and wonder why there's any tea. And when your luck held through the winter, there was work in mills ashore to pay the rent, to feed your kids, to keep your dreams. So path to Eagle Path was working folks' quarters, run dark in hard times, shining in good. For we built them, we worked them, they brought us our living. Till there's drops of canal waters running out. And there were good times working union posts, federal and the state. There were berths with racks for shipmates, a little more. And there were times you worked at every job a boatman never knew. Times you gardened, fished, and prayed for one job more. Then came the war, and working waters needed workers once again. But the tending of the locks became your trade. For a family grows in hard times just as sure as it would. You were sure before your family peace was made. Towpath to Heel, Towpath to Heel Path was working folks' waters, dark in hard times, shining in good. For we built them, we worked them, they brought us our way. Till there's drops of canal waters run without end. It was the passing of the working fleet that troubled you to words, who said your work was poor man's honor, nothing more. Now you drive the banks and walk the locks and talk to those you meet, long retired, more a canaler than before. And as the gleaming yachts, the outboard boats, the cruise ships and canoes renew the Erie as she ages, works and waits, you say it isn't what she's been, it's what she is and where she'll go that makes this whole canal the river of our fate. Path to Heel Path was working folks' waters, run dark in hard times, shining in good. For we built them, we worked them, they brought us our living. Till there's drops of canal waters run without end.
The last chapter in that book that George is talking about with Richard Gary, Canal Boatman, he worked on the canal when it was Animal Power. And the last chapter, he described getting in a car and touring the new barge canal. He went through Clyde and Lyons and he looked at all the old, what used to be his livelihood. And he marveled at how great the barge canal was. And he couldn't believe it, that, you know, all this changed overnight in 1918. Boom, just like that. If your boat was on the canal, you lost it. It's in the mud, it's lost and gone forever. And that's what you tell a fourth grader. A fourth grader, their mind is better than ours. Any fourth graders in here? I see a couple. Well, I have the mind of a fourth grader when it comes to the canal, because I'm always amazed by it. It's like there's something new around every corner all the time. It's never the same. You never get the same thing wherever you go. And that's the joy of it, whether you're in a kayak, whether you're jumping off a bridge and losing your britches. And nobody does that anymore. What's wrong with these kids? I haven't seen anybody jump off a bridge in years. I haven't jumped off a bridge myself in probably about 5 years. And it's terrible. Nobody does this. So anybody, you gotta encourage your kids to get out there. We won't get into that. But enough said. But the thing is, can you imagine your livelihood and going back and seeing that New York State built a large canal right out from under you? And now what do you gotta do? You gotta sell your animal. And the funny thing is, it's happening again. Now everybody's going, I'm not getting an electric boat. Well, the Maid of the Mist is electric. It doesn't have the diesel fumes. When you're telling the people about the waterfall and the area, you don't have to talk over an engine. They charge the boat every night. It's dependable, and they love it. And it's an electric boat. And I like the story that I heard a long time ago, and I'll give it to you as brief as I can. The wood was free for steam along the river. And as they collected the wood for the steamboats, the wood got further and further away to the point of where they had to bring the wood, and people had to pay for it to run their boats. That's crazy. Well, then they came up with coal. Geez, I shouldn't have to pay for coal. I got to change all the engines on my boat to a coal boiler instead of a wood boiler? That's crazy. I'm not doing that. And it goes on and on. It went from that to diesel to, oil steam to diesel, and now diesel to electric. And it's funny because it happens whether you like it or not. And it happens. And go buy an electric boat. Tell me if you like it.
Right. Well, I think we should probably wrap up.
Any questions?
He was going to sing his mosquito song. What's the mosquito song he was going to sing?
Pardon?
George is going to sing the mosquito song.
Oh, actually, the trouble is that's a long rambling story, and it just has mosquitoes in it. So, on the other hand, let me see if my memory will work for a minute. When you said, oh, black flies.
Oh, yeah. I hate
This is
black
not
flies.
I hate mosquitoes. This is not a canal song specific. I can't remember what key I used.
Good encore, Mike.
Now you know this chorus. Because it says, they're crawling on my eyeballs, buzzing in my ears, flying up my nose, and swimming in my tears. I'm sticking to the lesson that I learned so long ago. I'm sitting in the smoke until the black flies go. Old Ben, the old trapper, saw the real guy, Benny Rain. Old Ben, he was a trapper of the Cedar River flow. Had a lot of buddies, though you think it's so. Since he used to hide his tracks and take away your breath, I've seen him chase off skunks and gag a possum half to death. When I was just a kid, old Ben was my first grown-up friend. Like all his other cronies, I learned quick to stand upwind. Except that in the springtime, you could almost sit close by. He smelled like Grandpa's smokehouse. They asked him why. He said, now boy, there's lots of things a woodsman's got to know. He says, nature won't forgive you if your hips are too damn slow. You got to watch and listen, but I'll tell you so you'll know. I'm sitting in the smoke until the black flies go. They're crawling up my eyeballs, buzzing in my ears, flying up my nose and swimming in my tears. I'm sticking with the lesson that I learned so long ago, sitting in the smoke until the black flies go. Just take that last line. Sitting in the smoke until the black flies go. Sitting in the smoke until the black flies go. Do that, you get the rest. You get extra stars.
Getting them warmed up, George.
Oh, let's see. I watched the Flatland tourists come up to see the view. Their pills and potions, shots and lotions, beer and ripple too. They scratch and swell and call it hell, but Lord, for all they know, forever wild some motel room that don't have HBO. Cause getting back to nature ain't collecting itchy cows, or bumps upon your windshield, or a broken down old house. You fix up for your weekends on a mortgage that would do to feed the third world country for at least a year or two. It's crawling on your eyeballs, it's buzzing in your ears, flying up your nose and swimming in your tears. I'm sticking with the lesson that I learned so long ago, sitting in the smoke until the black flies go. I've paddled every river, from the salmon to the stream. I've climbed the peaks and hiked the bogs in April, May, June. Through rain and hail and broken bones, beans cooked and canned, I've survived my own stupidity, the best of which I can. The North Star tells me where I am, as soon as I can see. You're in the Adirondacks and you're lost as you could be. But I know I'll survive, I'll build a fire and take it slow. Sitting there in the smoke until the black flies go. Crawling up my eyeballs, buzzing in my ears, flying up my nose and swimming in my tears. I'm sticking with the lesson that I learned so long ago, sitting in the smoke until the black flies go. One more. The feet we all confused might be life or just the times. There's stuff buzzing round to tangle anybody's mind. It makes you want to scratch and run and weep, beg and shout, jump into lots of stuff that you'd be better off without. But sometimes when it gets to me, I think about old Ben. It ain't that life was simpler when I knew it back then. It's just that someone had the sense to say, take it slow, sit here in the smoke until the black flies go. They're crawling up my eyeballs, buzzing in my ears, flying up my nose and swimming in my tears. I'm sticking with the lesson that I learned so long ago, sitting in the smoke until the black flies go. Come sit here in the smoke until the black flies go.
So we're going to play songs, James.
Thanks, George. I love that song. That's a good one.
That's a good song. I like
It
it.
is.
I
Will you
once-
sing it?
Yeah, I once saw a black guy, 250-pound man.
You must have worked for the Canals.
I got a question over here.
That's what we're looking for.
Could we sing the Erie Canal song for 15 years or 15 miles on the Erie Canal? Everybody knows.
Which one? Yours or mine?
I don't know.
Well, let's take a vote. 15 years or 15 miles. Oh, well, Dan Wiles and I were having this conversation.
It only really just started.
This afternoon.
Everybody knows.
Well, everybody knows it, but everybody knows it slightly differently. So if you sing it slightly differently, you were fourth graders, you just try to shout louder than the other people.
That's the way I like it.
Don't
Louder.
What Tommy Allen wrote was 15 years up the Erie Canal because he was in Rochester at the time. This was about 1912. And the old canal was going to be leaving Rochester. And he was making fun of the old canal fellow with his view. By the time he got to the poet Carl Sandburg's American Song Bank, wonderful collection of American folk songs. Whether Sandburg had changed it or whether you heard it from somebody else's with 15 miles, it's the way Pete Seeger learned it, it's the way Bruce Springsteen learned it from Pete Seeger. Who you gonna argue with? Let's sing 15 miles. I got a few that name is Sal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. She's a good old worker, she's a good old pal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. I've hauled some barges in our day, filled with lumber, coal, and hay, and we know every inch of the way from Albany to Buffalo. Low Bridge, everybody down, Low Bridge, for we're coming to a town. You'll always know your neighbor, always know your pal, if you ever navigated on the Erie Canal. Myself, without just one breath. I hope it's not too hot. Oh, you bet you're right, but never part with Sal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. She's good enough. She knows every inch of this old canal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. Get up, old you, here comes a lot. We'll make Rome about 6 o'clock. One more trip, then back we'll go, right back home to Buffalo. Low Bridge, everybody down, Low Bridge, for we're coming to town. You'll always know your neighbor, always know your pal, if you ever navigated on the Erie Canal. Well, I don't have to call when I want my Sal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. She drops from her stall like a good old gal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. I eat my meals with Sal each day. I eat beans, she eats hay. She ain't so slow if you wanna go. She put the muffin Low Bridge, everybody down, Low Bridge, for we're coming to town. You'll always know your neighbor, you'll always know your pal, if you ever navigated on the Erie Canal. Let's sing it first, we're singing this one. I gotta hope you let me take this down. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. She's a good worker, she's a good old pal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. We hauled some barges in our day, filled with lumber, coal, and hay, and we know every inch the way from Albany to Buffalo. Low Bridge, everybody down, Low Bridge, for we're going to a town. You'll always know your neighbor, always know your pal, if you ever navigated on the Erie Canal.
That's nice, George. It reminded me of something.
All right.
That's another song that we totally mutilated at night. We turned it into a barge canal song. You know, stinking old diesel on the barge canal. Those that liked it well. Those that don't can. You get the picture. We mutilated most of the songs that were popular. Well, we had the time.
Well, that's how folk songs get started, for sure. Yeah. Yes, sir?
Steve, I have a question. In the very beginning, when you talked about the airplane, you said it was a bell boat.
Yes.
Can you explain that quickly and simply?
Yes. The engineer is in the engine room, and he has a telegraph system that starts the engine. It starts it in reverse, it starts it in forward, and there's a bell and a jingle. The bell is for direction of the boat, and the captain rings it. One bell would be for stop or forward, and the jingle is for the speed. The captain, all he has control of in the engine totally is relying on his engineer, who is in the engine room, answering the bells.
Can that guy see?
He sits right above the engine, and he has what they call a telegraph, and he feeds the engine air. The only thing that can go wrong is the bell pull can break, or you don't have enough air to start the engine. And then that's when the excitement starts. That's when you hit things. And remember one thing, tugboating is a contact sport. So sometimes you have contact with things. But the bell boat, that's basically what it is. The captain doesn't have a gas pedal or anything like that. So if you wanted to leave the wall, you would give one ding and a jingle, and you pull away from the wall. And as you get going, you would give another jingle. Whatever you work out with the engineer, there's different types of bell signals, depending on what type of work you're doing. But it can get pretty complex. You can mistake a bell for a jingle really quick, and you could think it was a start when it was a stop. So two guys have to really coordinate and work good together. Sometimes it takes quite a while. Sometimes it just never works. Somebody's got to go. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. Yes.
Steve is my son.
I did.
Art Wonder. Sometimes they take care of the water. So I spent quite a few nights in the places. So it's very fun. And also, very, very, very nice. We could hear the canal boat blowing its whistle to get through the locks. And sometimes we wake up, because we were over half a mile, almost a mile from the canal, right near the locks. And,
In Lions.
It
was in Lions.
I jumped off the bridge once and went in the canal, way down to the bottom, and I never thought I was going to get back up again.
See, I grew up hearing these stories. That's why I thought it was all right. My dad did it. Why can't I?
Wonderful. Absolutely. Well, thank you, everybody.